Hey, everybody. Welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host, the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, and now the publisher at Autonomy Global. We are in a month that we've dedicated to this theme of public safety and defense. It's sponsored by Mark 43. If you missed their show, go back and check it out. But in the meantime, we are so honored to have with us today Junio Palomba. He is with Flyability. Now, this is a company you may have heard of because they've made their mark for many, many years in the energy sector with their very unique drones, and they're bridging into public safety. And I'm so excited to talk to Junio today. So wonderful to have you on the show.
Hi, Don. Thank you so much for having me. Big fan of the show. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to your audience today.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, almost every single show I've been to for the past 5 years since I created my business, I've seen Flyability there. Such a unique drone in the cage, and the command van that you have oftentimes, and all the different things you're doing. So really excited to have you finally with us and to talk a little bit about what you're doing and how it translates to public safety. But before we do that, for folks that don't know you, can you give them a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, well, I came into the drone industry like most people a bit by accident, you could say. My background was actually in business development for sustainability industry, and I literally stumbled upon Flyability after I moved to Switzerland, and this was almost 9 years ago now. And it was really sort of love at first sight. Like the product, even in its earliest version, Delios One was so immediately captivating that I decided to apply, and slowly but surely I sort of rose through the ranks of the company. I started as an account manager, moved down to create the sales team for the Europe, Middle East, and Africa area. And at the beginning of last year, I was appointed as managing director for Flyability Inc. And I'm talking to you today from our main office in Denver, Colorado.
Woohoo, he's right up the road, folks, because I'm in Colorado Springs. So I love to have Colorado companies, and I knew you guys had opened shop a couple years ago here. You're clearly global. We'll talk more about that. But before we do, I'd love to get a little bit into the origin story for Flyability, because like you said, this drone is so unique. In fact, let's go ahead and pop up an image for those that have not seen this drone. Okay, you can see it here. The cage around it is what makes it unique. And honestly, when I first saw this, it really caught my eye because no one else was doing this.
Yep.
And so tell us a little bit about how Flyability came to be.
Well, in the beginning, it was spelunking, believe it or not. So our CTO and co-founder, Adrian, he was a PhD student at the time at the Polytechnical School of Lausanne, which is the birthplace of Flyability. And much like many engineers or good engineers, he was actually borrowing from nature to get inspiration for the great grandfather at this point of the Helios 3, which was called the gimbal. And he actually realized that larvae, especially fruit larvae, actually do not avoid collision, but they actually use collision in order to navigate environments that they don't know. So while pretty much everybody else in the aeronautics or drone lab back at EPFL was trying to fit as many sensors as possible on the drone in order to make it collision avoidant, he actually decided to build a cage around it so that it could actually withstand collision. And they submitted his doctoral thesis basically for the drones for good competition in Abu Dhabi, I think in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Won the first prize, got on with $1 million. And that was the first seed fund money for the company. And here we are almost 10 years later with more than 1,200 customers in 68 countries. But the funny story is that at the beginning, they really thought that the main application for this could be spelunking. So rescue teams in emergency situations in confined space mountainous areas. And they stumble upon one of our very first investors that was coming more from an industrial background, that looked at Adrian and was like, you can actually make money with this, right? And that's how they got started into the whole industrial inspections. And it's funny to see how we've come full circle and back more on the public safety sector as well.
Yeah, wow. I love this show because I get to interview amazing people like you, Junio.
Thank you.
I learn things all the time, and I didn't appreciate that biomimicry kind of origin piece, if you will, of colliding with nature to experience it and learn, kind of feel your way around. What a brilliant story. And it's so cool that that initial competition was kind of the bootstrap to get it going. And then investors saying, hey, wait a minute, there's a whole energy sector out there that could really use something like this. So let's talk about that. And at least that initial problem set that Flyability was solving, specifically in the energy sector.
Yeah, so most of the inspections that as in our customers, most of the inspections that our customers tend to perform, they tend to be dangerous, costly, and time-consuming. And this is because of the inherent nature of the areas where these inspections tend to take place. We're talking about nuclear power plants, boilers, chimneys, stacks, all areas where it's incredibly dangerous or complicated to not only have access, but set up structures like rope access or scaffold in order just to perform basic visual inspection. So obviously, from a value proposition point of view, this is sort of really the trifecta of our products from the very beginning. The idea to be able to provide safe, effective, and cheaper solutions for more and more sophisticated inspections. We started with mainly visual or mostly visual, and during the past few years, with the incredible efforts of our R&D team, we actually started including more and more payloads onto the drone that give us the opportunity to perform even very advanced and complicated NDT inspections like ultrasonic testing or thermal inspections or even gas sensing. So the core value proposition of the company has remained the same, but through many millions of dollars of investment in R&D, we've actually been able to expand this portfolio of offering and payloads and type of inspections that can be performed.
Well, you're on the third iteration of the Helios. It's the Helios 3 now. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into the actual technology. I know we have a video, so let's go ahead and roll that, Junio. And then if you could walk us through kind of what we're seeing here, that would be great.
Well, the key differentiator between the Helios 3 or all of the Flyability drones compared to 99% of the drones out there is that it's specifically designed to operate in areas that are where there's no GPS signal. So we actually use a combination of LiDAR and visual camera sensors in order to navigate the environment. For those not familiar with LiDAR technology, it's pretty much like the equivalent of a sonar, but instead of using sound, we use laser to navigate restricted spaces. The cage around the drone, which is indeed the most defining characteristic of its design, is able to provide an extra level of comfort or safety for the pilot. But from a technological and navigation point of view, it's really the VIO cameras, the visual inertial odometry cameras, and the LiDAR that do all of the heavy lifting. And thanks to the incredible processing power that goes on the drone itself, the drone is actually able to not only remain stable in these very, very unnatural conditions for a flying object, but also inspect, navigate, capture data both in digital format through the LiDAR and also thanks to the 4K camera. Another big differentiator is the presence of a massive lighting power on the drone. Most of these environments tend to be very dark, pitch black, in fact, and
Right.
with significant lumens on board of the drone, we're able to literally shed light on defects that can be sometimes even as small as centimeters. We're talking about cracks could be cement or other metallic structures.
Wow, that's amazing. So you alluded to payloads, in this evolution of the product over time. Walk us through the evolution, and then I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into some of these payloads that you're able to integrate with the Helios 3. So how has from that what is it, the 2016 version that won in the competition
Yeah.
to the Helios 3 of today, how has the product evolved over time?
Well, I think that the key driving factor has been customers' feedback. And this
Mhm.
is really something that Flyability has mastered as a company, the the willingness, not just the ability, but also the willingness to hear customer feedbacks, and that has really helped us shape the roadmap for the product from its very first inception. So those who remember the Helios One, the biggest issue was this rotating cage in front of it with the double gimbal that effectively would severely restrict visibility and make navigation and orientation quite difficult. So that was obviously sort of the first major improvement on the design and the first and the most significant upgrade from the Helios 1 to the Helios 2, which came out in 2019, if
So to
I'm not
make the
mistaken.
cage stable as
Exactly.
opposed to rotational?
Exactly. So we abandoned the double gimbal design and we actually opted for a fixed cage system, which provided similar, if not equal level of resistance in terms of collisions, about 5 meters per second. But at the same time, you could finally have this unrestricted central view with crisp 4K images that would actually allow you to get up close and personal, you could say, with the kind of defects that you were trying to spot. Could be corrosion, could be pitting, could be a missing bolt, could be any number of visual defects that you were finally able sort of to zoom in and focus. The challenge as the product evolved was how to make a drone, how to create a platform actually that could be appealing to different industries. Because the more commercial success we had, the more we started getting different requests from different industries. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The mining, one of the big engineering restrictions that we have to face is the size of the drone, because most access point in any industrial area of the world, they tend to be exactly 40 centimeters. I do apologize. I do not remember what's that in imperial, but I think it's about
That's
18
okay, but the
inches.
point is that you have to be able to fit through the entry point, or otherwise it's a
Exactly.
non-starter. Yeah.
Exactly. So, for instance, people working in the mining sector, they're like, we don't have this kind 15 inches, thank you. People in the mining industry, they were like, but we don't care. I mean, we have stopes that can be several meters, several hundreds of meters long, so or wide. So we don't care about the size of the drone. Instead, people in the maritime sector were already telling us to create something smaller, because sometimes on ships, 15 inches is already quite wide, and not all of entry points are 15 inches wide. To push it even further, sewers inspectors and culverts would like to have like a mini version of the drone. So
Mm.
as our industries and our appeal started to grow, we had to make some choices in terms of design that would inevitably affect the direction of the product. Now, one big decision that was taken with the Helios 3 platform was really to build a modular system. And in fact, I have with me a version, well, a demo of the Helios 3. And I don't know if it's visible right here at the back, but we've actually designed it with two auxiliary ports at the back. That basically allows us to plug in at any given point two different payloads. Now,
Oh, wow.
you should be able to see the auxiliary ports right there.
Yeah,
So
I can't.
one,
So question, how big of a payload, how heavy, because that will affect obviously the aerodynamics in the flight. So
exactly.
what kind of payload? Well, I guess now we're getting into the payload conversation. So let's just do it. What kinds of payloads can plug and play there?
So first and foremost, we knew that in order to achieve autonomy, we needed to have a LiDAR there. So the entire platform was built around the idea of how to sustain literally and physically a LiDAR platform. Since the inception and the launch of the product, we have worked on a radiation sensor, power generation, and the nuclear industry in particular has been one of our main areas of success. There are currently Helios 1, Helios 2, and or Helios 3 platforms in almost 90% of the nuclear power plants in the United States.
Well,
That has been,
I want to stop you there because I think
yeah,
it's really important to emphasize the value proposition. Because here's a market, here's an industry, nuclear, that has widely adopted this platform, and there's a reason for it, right? You kind of alluded to the kind of the dull, dirty, dangerous. I mean, when you think about nuclear and radiation exposure for humans, what was the traditional way of doing things? I assume it's inspections in these plants and the risk there. And then how does the Helios line of products change the game for that?
yeah, it's a fantastic question. Thank you, Don. So this was actually one of our very first killer use cases, as we call them, and this was even back with the Helios One. So we're talking about a platform with very severe limitations in terms of maneuvering and an ability to fly inside confined areas, but the key value proposition for nuclear power plants operators was that in order to perform even basic visual inspections, they would normally have to bring down the generator almost to a halt. And
Mm,
that would cost them millions of dollars in lost revenues.
sure.
Obviously, it was necessary to bring down the generator in order to bring down the radiation level and allow for the personnel to go and inspect the more sensitive areas or the more radioactive areas of the platform. Now, suddenly, here's a drone that doesn't care about radiation exposure. I think actually already with the Helios 2, we set the record in terms of how many radiation per hour got absorbed by the drone, and it still kept on flying. So we could propose a solution whereby the power generated by the platform could by the power plant could still be significantly higher than the benchmark, or and the drone could still perform the inspections without human intervention, which is the other big factor. Like most people working in the nuclear power plant in the nuclear industry, they have a set limit of radiation that they can be exposed to on a yearly basis. And once they've reached that cap, that's it. Like they can't work on the power plant
Right.
anymore. And a big assist for us in this particular industry was the concept of ALARA, so as low as reasonably achievable. So in terms of radiation, so once plant managers and ALARA experts got wind of this solution, it was Christmas for us.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. That's amazing. Well, we've been talking a lot about the hardware, but obviously software powers this thing, and you guys are also experts in that. So, to walk us a little bit through that software ecosystem that you've built up over time.
Well, there's a quote from one of the fathers of Macintosh that I always like to paraphrase. He used to say that people that care about software should build their own hardware. I like to think about it in the opposite way. So
Right,
people
right.
that care about hardware should build their own softwares, and that's exactly what we did. So obviously the platform, the drone itself is remarkable in terms of features, but there is a whole ecosystem of software behind it that is actually able to make the most out of the data, and that has been the challenge for us. In a way, the software had to catch up with the ability of the lidar and the other sensors to capture vast quantities of data. We're talking about several gigabytes of lidar information per minutes of flight. And this is actually becoming one of our strength points, the fact that few companies have developed this ability of localizing elements inside confined spaces. This is sort of really becoming our value proposition. So it began with the fly aware system, which is really sort of the navigational tool. I would say that the navigation computer on board of the drone. Cockpit, which is the application that runs on tablet that allows for the drone to be operated remotely. And we've then added cloud capabilities because obviously, especially in the inspection world, it is necessary to have this kind of offering for corporate customers. And we're going more and more towards defect recognition and the ability to really offer a solution, sort of a one-button solution from analysis of the footage to reporting.
And so is that Inspector 5, is that the feature that allows that kind of one button push of analyzing the data and then spitting that report out on the back end?
Exactly, thank you. So Inspector 5 is definitely sort of uh, the the main piece of software that allows for the data captured by the drone to be then analyzed on desktop and to provide really that first layer of analysis, and that allow really to have side by side the digital imaging captured by the drone together with the visual imaging. And that's basically where you're able to see the trajectory of the drone, replay the inspection, focus on the point of interest, and really sort of re-see and recapture everything that you've seen during the inspection flights.
And I find it really interesting that you created a very hyper specialized application for sewer inspection data. I think it's your WinCam web.
Correct. So this is actually very interesting application for me coming from the European market. So inspections with drones in countries like the United Kingdom have already become, or France, they've already sort of become uh, part and parcel of the way that these inspections are performed for many years now. And only now is actually started to get to the United States and Canada. So normally we always used to see trends coming from the United States to Europe. Um, Case in point, the nuclear power plant applications. But public infrastructures like sewers, it's really sort of the opposite way around. We're starting only now to see companies, both public and private, in the infrastructure sector, starting to use drones more systematically for this kind of inspections. WinCan is indeed a partner of ours, and they have developed an amazing software that integrates beautifully with our own solutions, and that really allows for faster reporting of defects according to specific codes for building constructions and defects management. So there is a whole nomenclature and classification taxonomy of defects when we talk about sewers and public infrastructures. The WinCan integration basically allows us to take the footage from the from the Helios 3, put it through their software and create reports that are just not complete and comprehensive, but also legally compliant.
Okay, well, that's as a lawyer, that's very important. So that's amazing that you do that. I also love that you have a training simulator. Tell people about
Yes. So this was, I like to give kudos to my colleague Charles for that. It was this huge project of his. We, although we put always a lot of emphasis in terms of face-to-face or on-site training, this is actually something that we offer with every drone. We love to have the opportunity to travel on site and provide training to our customers because um, good practice makes it perfect. Um, the simulator was a necessity in terms of providing that muscle memory with the key combination. And really, I think one of the biggest challenges is for people that are used to fly outdoors to move to a beyond visual line of sight only kind of flying experience. So the ability basically not to see the drone as it's flying, but only being able to relay on information from the tablet. So the simulator has been incredible at providing people with that entry level experience to understand the position of the buttons, for instance, on the remote controller, because it integrates perfectly within the main remote controller of the drone, but also to familiarize, for instance, with the duration of the battery. So most outdoor drones tend to have longer battery life than ours. So there is an element of teaching people to prevent those kind of pesky situations where you might be running out of battery inside a 500 feet culvert and you're running out of time. So it's been an intrinsic part, I would say, of our education, but also risk management process.
Well, yeah, you have been recognized for safety. In fact, just this year, tell us about the award that the Helios 3 received and your company received.
Yeah, so last year with the launch of the ultrasonic testing module, we took a big swing at the maritime sector. This is one of the most complex industries in terms of non-destructive testing inspections, both because of the nature of the assets that we have to inspect. If you really want to have a scary experience, go on YouTube and look up ballast tank inspections, and that would give you nightmares. We're talking about dark, humid environments where normally people are sent on small raft to take a look at the conditions of the bottom of the ships. And for us, this sector was ripe for innovation because again, we're talking about inspections that have been performed the same way for many
Hundreds,
many
probably.
years. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably hundreds of years, indeed. Um, so at the same time, the the classification societies that regulate the shipping industry have very stringent standards in terms of quality, in terms of reporting, in terms of data. So the challenge there was to create a solution that was not only innovative but again compliant and easy to use. So with the launch of the ultrasonic testing probe, which allows us to perform surface scan on metal structures. This is indeed one of the biggest requirements for oil and gas industry and for the maritime industry. So I think that the award we received from the OTC, from the offshore association, it's a big acknowledgement in terms of the steps that we've taken in terms of establishing this as a go-to solution for more and more players inside the maritime industry. And once again, I think it's a testament to the R&D, to the quality of the R&D research that we perform. It's a testament also to our marketing people. I like to give kudos to Matteo, this has been really like the main driver behind this initiative. And it's indeed a testament to how far we've come in such a short time as a company.
Absolutely. And now you've got your eyes trained on public safety. And so I want to talk about that bridge, what, all the different successes you've racked up over time, the evolution of these products, the integration of additional sensors. You're now looking at the public safety sector and thinking, here is something that can make a difference. Tell us why you think that and how the Helios 3 can make a difference for public safety and first responders.
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that all the Alias platforms are classified as non-dual use. So that's very much part and parcel of the company DNA. However, we've recognized through times that there are situations in which they can have a positive impact for public safety. And indeed, it's probably not the most advertised of our segments because of the nature of the work that is performed with the drone in this kind of situations. But as the platform has gotten easier to use and better, we have seen more and more of these kind of applications. I remember a few years ago with the Policía Municipal de Madrid, there was an accident in the center of the city where there was an explosion inside a building, and the go-to solution was really the Helios 3 in order to identify and understand sort of damage report on the situation. Probably the biggest, literally in terms of size, situation in which the drone had to intervene was a huge gas leak in the city of Johannesburg, where several 100 feet of concrete had just collapsed because of a gas leak. And the idea of sending somebody in those situations just to check, it's ridiculous at best and dangerous in the highest possible terms. So whenever there is critical infrastructure situation, the Helios 3 always performs best. But in the last few years, we also had more and more application also from the more traditional defense situation. So without going into much confidential details, but we know that it has been used also in the airspace industry in order to inspect areas that can be very, very hard to reach and tend to be significant in terms of size. So again, where scaffolding could be very costly, very expensive. But the LiDAR side of the technology has also allows us, some of our customer, to scan the inside of the ships. And this is a major applications in terms of public safety or defense, as it's really very complicated to bring laser scanners inside the hulls of ships and perform accurate measurements inside critical components for the defense of the country. So we've also had situations in which the drone was deployed in training situations with hostages. The noise level created by the drone doesn't really make it nimble and invisible. Quite the contrary, tend to be quite loud. But for instance, with the thermal camera application, we had some very good successes with fire rescuers in order to identify people blocked inside a smoke-filled building. So again, there is a plethora of applications that fit very well within the different payloads and characteristics of the platform.
Well, as I was listening to you this whole time, Junio, I was thinking you all were doing GPS denied navigation before it was a popular thing. I mean, when you think about that, right? Because what we're seeing on the battlefield in Ukraine, right, and Russia, is the spoofing, the jamming, and this is not just happening on the battlefield; it's happening everywhere. And so there's been, I think, a laser focused attention on this and the ability to operate drones in GPS denied environments. But you've already perfected that. You've been doing it. Like you said, you have this light that you've been shedding literally on dark spaces and perfected that. So as I listened to you, I heard, kind of disaster response, if you will, with infrastructure, dangerous infrastructure scenarios, whether it's a gas pipe collapse or a building collapse, things like this, a gas pipe leak or a building collapse. I heard also, just kind of from a maintainer perspective, shipping, whether it's navies or coast guards that need to do inspections of their ships kind of in a steady state basis and not in an emergent situation. Just the flexibility of this, like you said, with the plug and play sensors, the use cases are endless. I mean, you probably remember, was it in Chile, where the mine collapsed? And those
Yep.
folks were trapped in there like forever. It felt like, and we've seen other scenarios around the world where, whether it's a mine shaft, or in fact in Colorado, do you remember just recently, sadly, that was a tour of an old mine, and I know the host, the tour guide actually perished in this accident. I think something happened with the elevator, and people were trapped down there. I mean, just the all the different use cases that can be applied, whether it's fire, as you said, with the thermal imagery, or in these tight dark spaces, tunnels. You think of, gosh, as we used to call it, the war on terror, and all those tunnels in Afghanistan they were hunting people down in. Um, this drone would have been a game changer there. And so, and the interesting thing is, you've been doing it, you've been kind of doing it quietly below the radar, and now you're telling. So why now? Why are you now letting people know, like, hey, we've perfected these applications across the energy space in all kinds of different markets. We're already making a difference in public safety. Uh, did you guys know that? Like, why the emphasis now?
Well, first of all, I'd like to go back to the really more than the public safety, just the safety element.
Yeah.
I um, it's deeply um, it's deeply saddening to see so many accidents. There is a LinkedIn page by a gentleman that works, I think, with the OSHA department specifically for mining, that posts really more to honor them rather than anything else, notifications around people that have died during mining accidents as they happen. And if I'm not mistaken, since the beginning of the year, there've been already more than a dozen. So the the fact that this solution is still sort of not everywhere, it's in this kind of dangerous environment, not just in mining, but oil and gas, civil infrastructures, etc. It's our drive, it's our push. It's really what gets us up in the morning and pushes us to go even further in terms of sales, marketing, and R&D. Um, it's really the DNA of the company. Um, for what concerns public safety, I think from a realistic point of view, it's also where we see that the majority of the investment is going as of now. Uh, we're a Swiss company, but we're not naive. Indeed, a big part of the research for the Helios 2 and the Helios 3 was done through DARPA. So indeed, we've always been aware of the kind of investments and research opportunities that that were available within the specific sector. So it's a thin red line to walk in terms of maintaining a product that is a core safety and non-dual use element while trying to appeal to public safety. At the same time, it's also true that the definition of public safety itself has been expanded enormously over the past few years. So indeed,
Yes.
some of the work that we've done in certain situations might have been classified as purely industrial, and now it has become more focused towards public safety. In general, we feel that we're still very much, even though it's a niche, and it is definitely a niche in terms of product compared to outdoor drones. We're still in very much in a blue ocean strategy kind of situation where we get requests for new applications almost on a weekly basis, and these are new assets, new ideas, new um, spaces that we didn't know they had a need to be inspected. And personally, I feel that public safety is probably one of those areas that, because of the success that we had in other sectors like power generation or mining, has gotten a bit more neglected. So we want to take a closer look at it and see basically what can we do for customers in these areas that can help us push the envelope of the Helios 3 platform even more.
Well, that's great. And you all heard it here. So if you've got ideas, if you've got needs, make sure you're contacting Junio. And along those lines, you've got a lot on deck coming up for this coming year, 2025, including your expansion of your company. If you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe kind of what else is on tap for Flyability this year.
Well, last year was a huge year for us in terms of we launched the payload that everybody wanted, the ultrasonic testing payload. Inside the company, we used to joke about the fact that if we had $1 for every time people had asked us to put one of those sensors on the drone, we actually would have never needed to do any fundraising. So it's a pretty tough act to follow in terms of product development, but we're giving it our best shot. So we have made a lot of promises in terms of autonomy at the beginning of the Helios 3 launch platform, and slowly but surely we are delivering on those promises. So last year we had the first big release in terms of autonomy path, which was the return to signal function. Effectively, should the drone lose contact with the drone, sorry, with the remote controller, with the signal, it would find its way back to the point where it lost the signal, which provided enhanced safety and peace of mind for the operator. So in a few weeks, we're going to be venturing to the next step of our autonomy journey. Stay tuned for more updates. It's also the year where we deliver on some big promises in terms of the ability of the drone to fly for longer. Again, I'm under, you can't see them, but there's actually the marketing people with the gun over there threatening me not to
They're
disclose too
waving, they're
much.
waving your
Exactly.
things. Stop, don't tell them yet. Yeah.
But
Okay. Well, you
there's
heard
also
it here first, everybody. There's your
exactly.
teaser. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, let me ask you this because you're out and about, as I said in the beginning. I've seen Flyability is a lot of different shows. Where are you going to be over the next couple months where people can link up with you and the team in person and kind of get their hands on this drone and see the capabilities for themselves?
we're doing the big three this year as well. So we're gonna be at AUVSI Exponential. We're gonna be at EDRC in June. Looking forward to seeing you there, Don. And also
Absolutely.
at
By the way, just going to interrupt for one more second again. Flyability will be sponsoring our full crew event stream from Energy Drone. So make sure you check that out. Of course, everything's posted on Autonomy Global, but go ahead. And then what's the third one?
we're going to be also at the CUAV in September, where there's actually going to be sort of the big reveal. And we're also going to be doing Clean Power and ICRA in May. These are all in May, I think, with the UVSI Exponential between 19 and 27 on May. So we're on the road a lot, and come and see us, come talk to us, ask us to, we love to be on the field. We love to showcase the drone in all possible confined spaces. So come and see us, and we'll, if you have a proof of concept, we'll make it happen.
Well, and between then and now, how can people reach you and learn more? And I think you might want to talk a little bit about some other possible partnering or employment opportunities also going on there.
Yeah, we're growing. I'm very proud to announce that we're growing our Denver team. It's been a terrific year for the Americas team last year. So we're gonna be having soon some job openings. So in the Denver office. So watch out for our job announcements on our LinkedIn page, and or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. But all the job posting will be advertised through our LinkedIn page.
All right, very cool. And how else can people learn about the Helios 3, about Flyability, and what you all are up to?
Well, again, I'm not saying this because I'm under duress, but the marketing team at Flyability over the past couple of years has done an amazing job in terms of collecting incredible data from a variety of industries. There is hardly an asset that our clients haven't inspected where we don't have a data sheet, a return on investment analysis, because at the end of the day, it's a dollar value, right? People want to take a look and see, okay, this is how much it's going to cost me, but how much is it going to save me? So our YouTube channel, it's a fantastic source of information. Like every other drone, the Helios 3, it's a deeply visual product, right? So it needs to be seen in order to be believed. And we have hours and hours of footage from the most bizarre and intricate spaces that actually demonstrate that we're not just talking about this, we're actually doing it. And there is hundreds of companies out there that deploy this day in and day out, and achieve amazing results in terms of safety, time, and savings. So Flyability website, fantastic resource in terms of marketing material, and YouTube as a vast library of applications, case studies, and also how to's in terms of improving your flying skills with the Helios 3.
All right. Well, awesome. I knew our time would literally fly, Junio, and it's been such a privilege speaking with you, learning all about the journey of Flyability and the evolution over time, what you guys are bringing to the table in terms of Helios 3, not just for the energy sector, but now public safety and so many other very specific markets worldwide. So great to have you. Thank you so much. That's all she wrote, everybody. We're a little bit over time, but man, what a great show. Thank you so much. We
Thank you so
are
much for having me.
out here.